All right, welcome back everyone. Today we're going to do something very exciting. We are going to take a little spin in a Rivian, but it's not just any old Rivian. He's got a fancy wrap on this, but other than that, other than wheels and tires, it's basically stock or no?
So the truck itself, it's an electric truck, so it's stock.
Right. There's not much to really do.
You can do to the driveline, but when you have 835 horsepower, you don't need to do anything to the driveline.
Right, right. All right, so here's a good question. How do you open the tailgate from back here?
So you got a push button on the left-hand side on top, and the rubber pad, you push that.
Ah, okay. And then this is kind of nice that you have a more even load floor, and you don't get stuff caught in the divot.
Yep, and being an engineer, you'll appreciate this. This is a cantilever tailgate, which means the tailgate's short. Yeah, but because they cantilevered out, I wind up going from a 4.5 foot bed to a 7 foot platform.
Yeah, that is nice.
So now I can load a street bike. I can put a four-wheeler or anything I want in the back of the truck when the rack's off. And then you have pretty much a full usable bed, which is about the same size as probably this has.
Someday they're going to make long beds and everything else too. So it just is the first one, right? So people have to realize that, yeah, it might not have every last little feature, but it's going to take time. Trucks in the 1930s, when they first started to look like they do now, didn't have all these features either. So
That's
it
exactly
just took
right.
time.
I like the composite. Now keep in mind, composite can be slippery if you put a metal can back here. That's why I have a mat. But the composite's nice because it's never going to rust.
Yeah.
It's really hard to hurt this stuff. You can break it, it can be cracked, but you have to really abuse your vehicle. And the inside, all the panels also are removable. So say I ever broke or smashed one of these, say something was sliding around, these can be pulled off and replaced. You smash the inside of your metal box, it's there forever. So that, to me, that's a perk. I like that.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
Which is kind of neat. We have on this side of the truck, this is factory. This is their dual plug system. This is a 1200 watt plug, so I can run like a little MIG welder. I can run, heaters, whatever I want off the plugs, right off the high voltage battery. On this side over here, Jake, we have the factory built-in air compressor.
Oh, I didn't know it had that.
So it's got a setup where you can plug a hose right into it and pull air off it. The bed's not tiny. Like you could put your Harley back here.
No, you could.
It's not a full-size truck by any means as far as a huge bed, but with the rack off. So the rack I'll mention quick.
The rack is cool.
My buddy Sam, so listen, made in America. I want to point that out. This comes right out of Southern California. My buddy Sam, this is Overland Rough Racks. We plan on doing a lot of accessories to go onto these molly racks. So yeah, a good shout out to Sam on here. And like I said, these things are like a roll cage in the back of your truck. We plan on putting his brackets on top for a rooftop tent, and this is going to have like an iCamper on it.
Real world, do you find the gear tunnel helpful, or is it a little bit of a gimmick?
It's the greatest thing I've ever had.
Okay.
So I'm a hunter. So if I want to take off with my buddies and go on a hunting trip, I can throw my firearms in my gear tunnel and lock it. So now the rifles are not in the back seat or on somebody's lap. Or if you put them in the bed of the truck, you got to have a cap or a lockable tonneau cover. So the gear tunnel also fits like skis. You could shovels, you could put anything you want. It's wider than people think it is. This is made to sit on, so you can sit on this. To change your, if you're going hiking, you want to change your boots, or you're putting your hunting boots on. And this is also made to stand on, so you can get to the top rack.
Wow, I didn't know. That's really nice.
It really steps up the usable of a gear tunnel, right? This has never been advertised as a truck. It's been built and advertised as an adventure vehicle. And that's really what this is. Whether your adventure is driving around the city every day as an adventure or going up the Adirondacks like we are.
That is true. And that's the thing. People compare it to something like this or a new version of this, right? This is a different thing entirely. This is more meant, not this model, but meant for work. It's meant for, kind of doing like actual...
Most trucks are work trucks.
Exactly. At the end of the day. This is meant to be a... suburban Americans get around vehicle.
Absolutely. So the kids didn't go to a soccer game, or the guy who wants to go out in the field with a welder and he wants to weld something on his camp.
And the thing is, if you want an electric, more work truck, something like the Lightning, for example, starting to get there. Maybe the new Ram, the new Silverado, like they're a little bit more what I would say a conventional truck and have conventional features, with being full electric. So, and like someday Rivian and even the Cybertruck will, Tesla will probably make a more, work truck-esque models at some point too, if that's something people want.
I agree totally. There's a button right here in the bottom. You'll feel a rubber pad. You can get that on film.
Nice. And it opens up. Oh, that's cool.
So it's a powered up, power down. So it's a push of a button, unplug. That's it. So I just filled my vehicle with gas from my house. You can't do that unless you own a gas station. On the average. So to me, that's incredible. It's super convenient. And depending on where you live and what you pay for electricity, in my case, I do not pay a lot. I'm also hooked to a solar farm. So my rate is, honestly, with all the taxes and fees, it's probably well under 10 cents.
Yep.
So I could fill this truck from empty to full for under 10 bucks.
Yep. Yep.
And it's hard to beat that. As
so,
you know,
so
driving.
You figure, even at best, let's say you get double the range in a gas truck, which you won't, but let's just say you did, that's going to be, you know, $80 in fuel versus $20 in this.
Exactly.
So it's quite a bit cheaper. It's quite a bit
Hey,
cheaper.
listen, there's days where I'm like, I don't want to deal with this.
Right.
So I'll jump in my gas vehicle and go do that, whatever I'm doing.
Yeah.
But 99% of the last year and a half has been, I'm dealing with even having the charges. Like I went to Maine, went to New Hampshire. It was fun for me.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about more of that when we get into some warmer.
Yeah, absolutely.
My bed rack's in the way, but I can see in my bed right here.
Yeah.
This was not on here when I bought the truck. This was not on here 2 months ago. These kind of things are stuff they can add with over-the-air updates. High-end ICE vehicles, they get over-the-air updates, like a Raptor can get updates, stuff like that. And there's others, Cadillacs. So if I have an issue, I can open my app and contact them immediately through the app and say, hey, I'm broke down. And then they'll do everything they can to get me help immediately. Or I can actually call them, call their service line per se, and say, hey, you know, having an issue, what can I do? And then they'll either have a mobile tech come here, which I've had 2 mobile techs come to my house here and do little updates. Oh, there's an update, we got to remove this clip, we got to do this, or I got a rattle, can you do this? They'll come to my house and fix it right in my yard. If it's something that they can't fix on site, I just had it happen, I don't know what it was, maybe 8 months ago. I had a fault pop up and it said front motor fault and it limited my speed. So we drove it home. I got here and I reached into my app and said, hey, I got this fault code. It says front drive motor. I don't know if my electric motors are bad. I'm not sure what's going on. They got me a rental the next day, put me in a rental truck for a week. They sent a tow truck up 2 days after I called them. They towed my truck down to Brooklyn. That's the nearest service center. Actually, I went to Chelsea, Mass. The other one's in Brooklyn. I went to Chelsea, Mass. They had it there. I was leaving and they wanted to cruise. So I said, what do you want me to do? So I wound up dropping the rental off. We went on the cruise, got back from the cruise. They got me another rental for like 3 or 4 days. My truck was completed. It happened to be a wiring harness. They just unplugged a little bit so it wasn't snapped in all the way. And that might have been something that I did because I had my hands in here doing some research. We've had a couple mobile techs taking stuff apart. So it was somebody's fault. It was human error. And they fixed it. They did a whole bunch of recall stuff for me. They did some upgrade stuff that I wanted to do while we're in there. And they really were above and beyond for me. And my bill for everything was 0. If you look right here, you can see that this black line is lit up. We're in the lowest setting.
No fender gap. Well, you also have oversized tires. What are the stock tires?
That's the stock size tires.
Oh, 35s are
so
stock?
they're 34.5 technically on these, but they're you put a tape measure to them, they're 35 inches high.
Yeah, that is quite a bit lower.
Now the cool thing about this is with a push or button, I can go 9 inches higher than where it sits right now.
Yeah.
It's just timed it, but it's around a minute and a half to go from full
that's not
lowest.
It gets a lot taller, huh? So, I mean, you think that has a higher ground clearance now than pretty much any stock truck, maybe like an AT4 kind of ground clearance, give or take. Maybe a little lower, but still pretty high.
It's got a full drift mode. And in full drift mode, what it does on this vehicle is it puts 80% of the power to the rear 2 motors and 20 to the front. Unless Rivian's changed those specs, that's the last I knew. So when I put the truck in drive and we go down the road, I can make this drive like a 2-wheel drive. Yeah. So we're not gonna do anything crazy, but just at low speed, I can make it a 2-wheel drive truck. That's something that you can do in almost any truck, right? That's a 4-wheel drive. You can put it in 2-wheel drive or go to 4-wheel drive.
The difference is, though, it's 800 plus horsepower you just put to the ground in the snow.
It is.
That's crazy.
The thing that's really cool, though, is...
I wish you could feel that acceleration, even in the snow. On
I totally forgot that. You didn't have any felt torque yet. So that was just a quick burp of the throttle. I wasn't flooring it or nothing, but it still has 20% front drive.
Right.
So it's just enough to keep you from looping the vehicle, right? I mean, you can be a good driver and go drive your truck and try to, do a fishtail with your buddies, and they get away from you.
Oh, for sure.
You can be the best driver in the world. I mean, sometimes you're gonna get away or loop it. It's spinning the whole
level
time.
of acceleration, though, despite being in snow, I mean, you have great tires on it, but even so, it's just unreal.
And we're just spinning the whole time.
Yeah, you're spinning the whole time, and yet it's still pulling as hard as anything.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
And this is one of the fun. Yeah. See, I'm a racer guy, right? Like I race trucks. I like power. I like performance. I like technology. I don't care if this run on cornflakes.
Right.
I'm still buying it if it runs like this. You know, people think, oh, you drive an EV, you're saving the planet. Well, I don't think so. Yeah. I just like performance. So that's where my stance is.
Anything major that you've noticed being this far north with an electric vehicle?
So here we do pros and cons. Yeah. The pros, I don't have to run to a gas station ever.
Right.
I mean, that's for me. Huge. Nice. It's huge.
Yeah.
And for some people that have to gas up every day, they don't think about it. Right. But if you do the online research from the average people, and there's always exceptions to this.
Sure.
The average person is going to spend up to 12 hours a year at gas pumps. 12 hours a year is a lot of time. You know, you're spending 10, 12 hours a year at a gas pump.
Yep.
To be honest with you, I put 15,000 plus miles on this in the last 12 months.
Yeah, I noticed that because your inspection sticker says 277 and you said you had 18,000 miles or whatever.
So, do you know how many hours I spent waiting for this to charge?
Zero, probably.
No, it's more, because I supercharge.
You do supercharge, yeah.
So, if you add in all the supercharging time, I spent around 6 hours. Okay. So I spent half the time waiting for my vehicle to refuel.
That's an interesting perspective because even if you wait longer to charge on certain trips, if you're never at a gas station, then you can make up for some of that overall time. Now, obviously, in that specific day, if you happen to be in a hurry, it's a little bit annoying. But in your overall life, you don't actually necessarily waste more time filling up.
That's exactly right.
And you don't have to attend to it because, like gas, you got to obviously wait for it to click off.
You wait for it. I always, when I can, which is 99% of the time, schedule my charging around not waiting for my charge.
Right.
I'm going to go up. We're going to grab some food. We're going to plug in and charge while we're eating.
Yep.
I'm not going to wait for my truck to charge.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, the truck will probably be done before we're done eating. So when we get back to the truck, we now have a full tank of fuel, we'll call it, right? We didn't wait for it. That's not always the case, though. There's times where you just have to, you know, we're not going to make it there. We got to stop and charge. Yeah. So you're going to wait for your vehicle. But you don't have to fill the tank.
Right.
So people always think, well, I couldn't wait 45 minutes for my vehicle to charge. Well, a lot of times I can't either.
Right.
I might only be there 10 minutes. Right. I might only need 100 miles to get me home or to the next destination point or wherever I'm going. Right. So I'm actually only there 10 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever. Yeah. And out of that 10 minutes, I plugged the truck in, ran inside quick. I bought a snack. I bought, a drink. I went and used the bathroom. I cashed out. Holy cow, spend 10 minutes. I'm done.
Yep.
So did I wait again? Not necessarily. Right. So there's a lot of times where even though I'm at a supercharger and my vehicle's charging, I'm not waiting for it, even in that instance. But going back again, yes, there's times you're going to pull into a supercharger if you own an EV, and you're going to sit there an hour.
Sure.
It's going to happen. Yep. Trust me. But it's not the average. It's not the typical experience with that. The other downside to that is the charging infrastructure. It's there. It's not spectacular yet, but it's there. But it's not always working. That is one of the things they need to fix. Yep. They have so many companies building chargers that it's not really regulated correctly in my view. They should be put in places that are easily accessible. They should be pull through stalls, not pull into stalls. Yep. There's a lot of things they just didn't do right. Yep. That's changing and it's going to get fixed. But that's the truth. There's a lot of negative sides to it.
Sure.
For me,
especially towing.
For me, towing. So listen, you're going to cut your range in half.
Yeah.
There's a good rule of thumb for anybody.
Yep.
If you buy an EV that's got 200 miles of range, I don't care what it is.
Or a gas vehicle.
Or a gas vehicle.
You will cut your range in half.
You're going to lose your range.
You have to accept the fact that if you're doing long distance towing, which most people don't, but I actually one of the oddballs who fall in that category, you do have to accept the fact that at least in the moment, in this snapshot in history, it might not be the best vehicle for you. I would say if you're doing long distance driving though, I think there are scenarios where it could still totally work out as long as you're not towing something. I do think, you know, if you're trying to do 500, 600, 700 mile days with a trailer, there is something to be said for a truck with a 30+ gallon fuel tank. You just go station to station, slam it full of fuel, and you're good to go.
So I jump on to different pages. I run a lot of pages on Facebook. I do a lot of YouTube stuff. I have my own YouTube channel. And I find there's so much negativity and so much propaganda about EVs in general. It upsets me that there's so much false data. It's not because I own an EV. It's because I know from over a year's worth of experience driving, racing, long distance traveling, off-roading, I know the goods and bads of this particular EV. Right. This does not speak for every EV in the market because, for example, because if you own a Chevy Silverado, I don't feel you have a right to talk about a Ford F-150.
Of course.
You don't own an F-150.
Yeah.
Every vehicle is different. you can't use them as comparisons. People are generalizing every EV ever made into one little bubble of just either good or bad, and that's not the way to do it. There are better EV vehicles than others. It's just the way it is, and I think they lose touch with that. You know, so that's one thing I think as a country, talking about us here in the U.S., we need to work on that. You know, you can dislike EVs, and that's fine. You know, if you don't like them, you have that right, and I wouldn't want you to change your mind unless something changed your mind with factual information. I said to myself, you know, what is going to be the deal with this truck? So I started looking into rebates. So of course, Rivian had no rebate besides if you pre-ordered it, you get locked in at a cheap price.
Right.
That already is a huge perk. Well, the government, our administration, which whether you agree, or disagree with them, come out with a federal tax rebate of $7,500 off. So this sticker price, the Maroni sticker, was $73,600 minus $7,500 in my taxes of that year.
Yep.
So do the math. Take $73,600, subtract $7,500, and that's what I paid for this truck plus tax.
Yep.
You cannot beat it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm into this truck for high 60s. The Rivian has a charger that came with two different plugs. You plug it in for 110, or you plug the next plug into the side of it for a level 2 220 charge. So my Rivian's mobile charger, that's 220 capable, puts out somewhere around 7-8 kilowatts to the truck. And if I had to guess, I would say, I can't remember, I used to know this data, maybe 10, 11, 12 miles per hour of charging added back to the vehicle.
Yep.
Now my level 2 charger on the side of my house can run higher amperage at the same voltage. That's pretty quick when you don't need the vehicle. You plug it in, 2 hours later you added 50 miles. Right at home, you know what I mean, for pennies. So that's level of charging. So then we bump it up again to level 3, which is considered fast charging or supercharging. And there's different levels of that. See how all this data can be confusing?
Yeah.
Once you're in it and you live it, it becomes very, very general information. It doesn't seem confusing anymore. But you still have to know what you're doing. So we can stop at a fast charger today, a level 3 fast charger, that's only 150 kilowatts. That's fine for us if we're, say, 60, 70, 80% battery. That's all this vehicle is going to pull from the charger anyway.
Gotcha.
Even though it could take up this one takes up 220, 230-ish, it's not going to pull that because as the batteries fill up, as they become more full on charge, they slow down the charging ability.
Right.
So this is where we have issues at chargers. I'll see a little Chevy Bolt plugged into a 350 kilowatt charger when it can only take around 55, give or take, max. That vehicle could use the 150 charger right next door to that 350 and not clog up a fast charger that, say, a Porsche Taycan could use because he can pull, or a Ford Lightning could use because he can pull over 200 kilowatts. The owners just don't know it. They don't do it on purpose. They just don't know that they shouldn't be plugged into that one when there's smaller ones free. So there's all this data that owners need to know about. And some people own these vehicles for quite a while and still don't know that. Here's something I want to add to this. So go back to your screen to show your viewers. Yep. This is only showing the 6 networks that we have loaded.
There's other networks though.
There's a lot of other networks.
That is annoying then. That
it's annoying, right?
Yeah, that is
but
annoying.
this is why every EV owner needs to know they need to download their own apps. You got to do your own homework.
Yeah.
This is not a normal vehicle when it comes to like traveling and knowing what you need to do to be able to refuel. This is going back to 1945 when there was not a gas station every 15 or less miles. Right? There's gas stations everywhere. There's not chargers everywhere. But there's a lot of chargers. But you have to have the right technology. So just looking at that app, just go back to speed, add them all in there again, and watch how the map just explodes.
Right. And there's all these little green dots here. Those are all chargers.
So as you zoom in,
there are a bunch.
There are a ton. Yeah. And that's nothing compared to what's out there. So
let's be honest, there's gas stations everywhere. But I have had it happen before where I've pulled into a gas station off the side of a highway in a state that I don't know where I am, and it's closed.
That's exactly right.
And you're like, uh-oh, I'm low on gas and this thing's closed. And then, or you pull into a gas station, obviously, and it is busy and you do have to wait.
So think about this.
Here's, it goes both ways.
So on that exact topic, chargers are 24/7.
Yep.
They never turn
off. A lot of gas stations aren't. Some aren't.
A lot of gas stations are not.
I ran into that too before.
Yeah, with hauling the race trucks all over the country, all the way to Indiana, you know, Missouri, Illinois.
Sure.
We found multiple gas stations, even at bigger places, that close at midnight.
Right.
Or whatever time, right? What do you do then? Like, when you only get 150 miles per rip on a full tank, you need gas. So we run into that. That was a serious problem for us. So we had to actually do research, find out which one opened.
Yeah, well that, and like, I mean, that's why I added the auxiliary gas tank to my truck for those reasons. I mean, I wanted to be able to extend my range, and because gas stations aren't always open, and then in a place like New Jersey where they're all full service, a lot of times they close sooner because they won't let you run the pumps without the store open. Whereas some places will let you run the pumps with the store not open. So like, that's a whole nother thing.
Like, they're like, well, what are you gonna do if you go off-roading? You can't bring gas, you know, because you run on electric. You're gonna be stranded. I'm like, you don't understand. You know, most trail systems that people do, I know a lot of off-roaders, are under 30 miles.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And at those speeds, you actually might really get more range.
I don't use hardly any juice at 5-10 miles an hour on a trail.
There's no wind resistance. So the thing to keep in mind is that that's what really drains your battery, is the rolling resistance of the tires, the wind resistance. If you're just putting around off-road, it's nothing.
Aerodynamics are everything, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's a huge misconception. That people get it wrong all the time. They're like, well, I wouldn't want an off-road EV vehicle because, you know, there's no gas in the woods. I'm like, well, listen, actually, it's one of the best vehicles to have.
Because if you're idling, you're still wasting a bunch of gas.
You are. This doesn't use juice hardly at all running the normal heating system. It doesn't use much juice, low speed. You know, there's so many saving factors. The other thing I like about EVs is the fact that I'm not reliant on anybody else if I want to be. Everybody that owns a gas or a diesel vehicle has to buy gas through a gas station. The gas station, every one of them buy their fuel from a port. And the port, for most people, pretty much comes from overseas, right? I'm sure there's some fuel floating around within the country that we buy, but there isn't much self-sustained fuel from the U.S. You're really supporting a foreign country. And in our case, a lot of the countries we buy oil from are not fans of the U.S. You know, they don't like us that much. But this thing I can tell you, when you buy electricity, guess where electricity
it's definitely
comes from?
U.S. made.
Or Canada,
or Canada, because if you're on the border.
We're up here, some of ours comes from Canada, but most of it is coming from the U.S. You're supporting U.S. families, U.S. companies, and people do not know that. Yes, they might look at some of the bad sides of EV stuff, production, like I talked about minerals earlier, but when you buy electricity, you plug in at home or at a supercharger, you're supporting a local business and you're supporting a country-owned business. I find that highly interesting that people don't know that.
Another thing I'd like to mention too is, on the energy note, a lot of people make the argument, and I get it, like, oh, it's you're charging your electric car with a coal-fired power plant, which does seem kind of like that makes no sense. However, the thermodynamic efficiency of a gas or diesel-powered engine compared to the thermodynamic efficiency of a coal-fired power plant, which, by the way, is not even as good as a natural gas-fired power plant, it is actually more, it produces less carbon per mile to charge an electric car from a coal-fired power plant.
Thank you.
Clean coal. I will say, if it didn't have a scrubber, maybe that wouldn't make sense, but everything has to now anyway, so they all have scrubbers and stuff. But it is actually technically less carbon output. Not technically, it is less carbon output. Now, is it as good as natural gas or solar or wind or whatever? Obviously, probably not. But, you know, it's not like you're not, even though you are making a trade-off, it is still a net positive trade-off. You know, in the whole equation.
You're right. So people always say, well, do you think your car, let me rephrase this. Do you think you're special because you're trying to save the planet with your car? I don't know what I'm saving. I'm a consumer. I didn't buy this to save the planet. I don't really know how green or not green this thing is.
All right, we're good. Uh-oh.
So look what just happened.
There you go. There's a real world scenario, right? Charger unavailable.
It literally changed while we were sitting here.
Oh, really? I didn't notice that. Yeah, this one is unhappy with its life. Oh, yeah, this thing is completely not working out. Wah, wah, wah. And then this is where the memes come from, and people like to,
absolutely.
They'll take a picture of us and make fun of it, and which I get on one hand. On the other hand, it's like, this is a new technology. It's not going to be perfect yet.
The problem is
they gotta industrialize it.
These aren't regulated right.
Yeah. We're on the phone with assistants here.
Exactly.
Related calls may be recorded or monitored for quality control purposes.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I dropped the call just so we could do this. Basically, if you find a working charger, this is again our problem. It's not the vehicle. It's this kind of stuff.
I know.
So we're going to open our port.
It's the infrastructure.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's not terrible everywhere.
But yeah. But you get up in the North Country like this, and there's a little less availability of stuff, and I'm sure it can definitely get tricky here and there.
Absolutely.
And in fairness, if you were coming from, say, Albany and you got here, you're pretty low on charge, you're trying to get to Montreal today, let's say, stuff like this could get frustrating. No doubt. There's no doubt.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
Yeah. Be super, propaganda one way or the other. It's like, this is it.
Yep. So it said to plug into the vehicle. I flipped down the little door to access the supercharging port. My app recognizes we're here. It says swipe to charge. So you just swipe on the screen. I have an account with Let's Ride America. So
what if your phone's dead? You can just pay for it with the thing right there?
Yep. You can pay right on the side of the meter if you don't have the app. Because there's a lot. The problem is there's so many like side brands of chargers.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to download in one big trip like 2 different companies I never heard of before.
I know.
But it wasn't that big of a deal. But it's like, why can't they all just work together?
And that's where it is nice to just have like...
And there are apps now, like Flow Charge and those that kind of embed them all into one. Flow just, you pay Flow and they activate all the different chargers. So now, we're not waiting for the truck. We're going to go get something to eat.
Yeah.
So we're actually stopped fueling. Show the gas station right there, Jake. People are stopping to just fuel up.
Yep.
Which again, they might only be there 5 to 10 minutes. It's not a big deal for them.
Right.
This is not rush hour.
Right.
So for us, it can be the same though. We could pull into a charging station during rush hour, and guess what? You may have to wait.
It can be busy.
It can be busy.
For sure.
So again, there's gas stations everywhere. Probably from where we're standing, there's probably 5 within a mile.
Sure.
You know, and this is the only supercharging station. So you see the problem? It's not the vehicles.
No, that's a really good point to bring up.
Yeah.
It's a really good point to bring up.
We are good to go grab something to eat.
Let's do it.
So this is showing us at 84% battery. Nice. I haven't set up to go to 100 because we're here for a while.
Yeah, might as well.
Hopefully there's not somebody waiting for me because it,
Right.
But until we're done eating. So in a worst case scenario, if this thing hit 100 quickly, which it won't, I would run out and unplug it and move my truck.
Right.
Not to be a jerk, and hold somebody up.
36.6 kilowatts, 16 bucks.
Max speed of 113. So see, a 150 was enough for us. We didn't need to go to a 350 kilowatt supercharger. There was no reason for that.
Yep.
So 1750, we used less than a quarter tank.
Yep.
So if we just, really rough this out, supercharging the most expensive way, it would have been around $70 to fill the truck at a supercharger here.
Yep.
This is middle of the winter. I'm studded snow tires.
Right.
Not set up to any kind of. And we played a little bit with it, and we weren't in conserve mode the whole time. So we could have reduced that maybe to $60.
Sure.
But I mean, it is what it is, right? Mm-hmm. In the summertime, that trip probably would have been somewhere around $40 to $45. Park is the button on the end, pushed in. Up is reverse, down is drive.
Yep.
And then what we'll do is we'll go right into. You're in just normal on-road, all-wheel drive.
Steering's, I'm sure it's adjustable because it's electronic, but definitely on the heavier side, which I actually prefer, but some people do like the caddy steering.
And then we can, now, give yourself some.
Oh, okay. Yep.
It'll change. You can go more. You can be more aggressive. You can feel it. You can sway a little bit. Okay, feel how it is?
Yeah.
Okay, so now what we'll do, just to show you, we'll just go to sport. It takes a minute for it to switch.
Yep.
It's done when that stops flashing.
Okay.
So, slow down a little bit. It's only 43 here too, by the way.
Oh. Okay.
Just so I don't want you to get a ticket. Mm-hmm. Now you can speed up to where you're comfortable, whatever speed you want to do, and then do the same thing again. Yeah. You'll feel it in the wheel and the truck.
Oh God, it's way more stable.
Is that crazy?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Totally changes. It rides stiffer, right? Because you're in sport mode. Yep. So it's stiff. There's no roll, there's no sway anymore. And this is all these modes, right? So even in this mode, we can take stability, we can turn it down. I can make it less stiff. So we're still in sport, but now it's a little more rolly, right? And I can take the ride feel stiff and soften that up. Yep. You're still in sport. See, it still stays level. You don't see the front end dive, but it has more of that. Yeah. And now we're in a soft ride, so the bumps won't be quite as harsh when you smash the small bumps like in small bridges. And this is all done through just push of the button, which you can't get in another vehicle, which to me is crazy. And if you want to do a little hit, you can slow down to like 10 miles an hour and just jam it. Whenever you're ready. Isn't that just satisfying?
Fast, yeah. Wow.
A dig is amazing with summer tires.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because it just rips your head off.
Yeah, that first 10 miles an hour is just when you're,
it's nuts.
From a dig, it's nuts.
And as soon as you feel this vehicle kind of level out and stop pulling as hard, 65. The speedometer is just climbing so fast you don't realize that you're just
like you're still accelerating pretty hard. It's probably just like a normal powerful vehicle hard. But like, it's just that you were going so much faster to begin with. It feels slow.
Yep.
But it's really not slow. It just feels slow.
We'll go off-road. I want you to experience this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw you in. So we're going to go to rally mode.
Yep.
Okay? So go ahead. As soon as it's done switching there. We're good there?
Yep.
So now, go ahead and jam it. What do you feel?
It leans back. Huh?
Yeah. You feel lean back?
Oh, big time.
Yeah, the front end comes right up.
It acts like a soft suspension rally vehicle.
Exactly.
That's interesting.
It's insanity, isn't it?
Oh, it's a completely different experience when you
So now feel it. It's all different.
Yeah.
Feel how sloppy it is?
Oh, yeah, wow. I
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now you're feeling what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And so I can say, look, Jake, it's got way different settings.
That's interesting.
But until you feel it, you're like, oh my God, it's not even the same truck.
No, it's not. I mean, that feels like what I would expect a Raptor to feel like. Kind of.
And that's what they feel like.
Wobbling.
Yeah, they're rolling because they're meant to hit those bumps and soak it up.
Sport mode kind of feels somewhat similar to my car. Obviously, a little less, side to side, but good. I mean, very good, especially considering it's on freaking 35-inch tall tires.
That's exactly right. Come on the curb and just get into it. You'll feel the front end coming up. It's like just like a rally truck would.
Yeah.
Hence the mode we're in. It's just fun, because it is quick in that same mode, but it gives you, it's almost like you hear the exhaust note when you're revving it, which, by the way, you haven't complained about yet at all.
No.
Interesting, huh?
I mean, I will say, as a daily, I wouldn't care. If I never had an internal combustion engine vehicle to go play around in, though, I do think I would miss it. I really do. I do like the sound and the feel and the whatever.
It's because you haven't blown a donut yet in this.
Which is fair, but
it's fair.
I know. I don't know. And I've always said this too on the motorcycle side of things. I really do think the experience is that much more raw when it's got it.
I agree. Listen, everything else I own besides this, it makes really loud noises.
Yep.
None of my exhausts are stock. They're all harsh. They're all very appealing to the ear. But this vehicle right here has never made me wish it had an exhaust note, which is crazy to me still.
I believe that.
Because how many times you put exhaust on your Camaro, right?
Yep.
They take off, go on a long trip, and you're 2 hours from home, and you're like, oh my God, it's giving me a headache. Because it's at just the right RPM where it just drones and it just kills you, right?
Yep.
It's not that this never has that problem, because it doesn't. It's just that it's just nice to never have those kind of problems.
Yep. Well, and the electric motors make enough noise that it's at least something.
Yeah, people don't understand.
They're not silent, which is like in a good way, though. They're silent when you want them to be, but they actually have a cool, like...
Supercharger whine.
Almost like Supercharger whine, yeah, exactly. Which is really kind of neat.
Now just burp it for like 10 miles an hour. Watch it. That's what makes it fun. Just the fact that, like you said, it gives you that little more raw interaction. The front end's lifting, like on a rally truck, right?
Jeez. It's brutal.
And you can hear the motors whine, which never comes through on video.
One thing, and again, not that I would necessarily try to sell somebody on this as a tow vehicle yet, given especially the charging station, constraints. But there is nothing more annoying than when you're towing with any 10 speeds help, but really any gas vehicle, and the cruise control just doesn't quite understand
shift points.
That you don't necessarily want to just like tap the engine out to hold an eighth of a mile an hour or more up a
My
hill.
Titan would run 6,500 RPMs for 15 miles.
If you let it.
Yeah, exactly. It was terrible. I got so nervous I had to take it out.
Exactly. So it's like the nice thing with electric is it isn't a thing. The cruise control is going to do exactly what your foot's going to do.
At all times.
At all times. So that's like a huge benefit for if you did have some pull-through charging stations down the road, you could definitely...
For towing, you couldn't get a better vehicle than an electric truck.
Well, no, not at all.
As far as braking, power, like you said, the shifting issues, all that, the only downfall we have is our range, right? I tell people the greatest analogy ever is you go out and buy a brand new diesel truck and they give you a 10-gallon fuel tank. The truck will do everything you want to do for 10 gallons worth of gas. That'd be annoying, wouldn't it? People right now are getting diesel trucks with 25, 30-gallon tanks, and they're upping the switch to 50-gallon tanks. So I'm thinking longevity-wise, once quality control is in there and you get companies like this that know what they're doing, it's going to be nothing to see EVs doing twice or 3 times the mileage of the average ICE engine or ICE vehicle. But it's going to come down to the unknowns. What's the battery pricing going to be at that point? Motors are going to be cheaper because motors aren't that crazy now. So I don't think that's going to be a killing factor for somebody saying, I want to buy that and keep it 10 years. Matter of fact, if I wanted to buy a vehicle to keep 10 years, it would be an EV. And here's some pointers on that. So electric vehicles don't have the components to rot and rust out on average.
That's a big one.
Right? I don't have a steel open C-channel or box frame. So salt's not sitting in my frame on my F-150 or my Silverado or my Ram rotting out. And this is fully protected under paneled, and it looks like it literally looks like an RC car, which is cool to me, but you know, it is what it is. Some people don't like that, some people do. But those panels do what? They protect everything. When you lift a brand new BMW or Mercedes, you don't see anything. It's all panels. They do that for wind. The wind gives you better fuel economy, gives you better aero, and it keeps the components away from stuff that could rust. So by having an electric vehicle, you're already that much further ahead. And everything else on this vehicle, Rivian specific, all the control arms, all the spindles, all of the steering and suspension components are all aluminum, and most of these are forged aluminum, not just cast. So they're super strong, and they never rust, they never rot.
I'm not a big straight line speed kind of guy. Like, I'm really not. I mean, it's fun, but I like things that handle well.
And what do you think?
And I will say, I put it in sport mode. I don't know if you noticed that I did that. And I mean, is it as good as my Camaro? Well, yeah, probably not. But it feels very fun to drive on a curvy road. This is a nice road with nice sweepers. This is the type of road that I would get in my truck on and just be kind of indifferent about. I'd get in my car on and be like, oh, this is gonna be fun. And I can definitely say that this is like 70% of the way there to what the car is. And it's twice the weight, and it doesn't have any need to really be that good at handling. But it's pretty freaking surprisingly good handling. And we're on snow tires, and they're 35s. There's a lot of factors here, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you optimize the setup for handling, if you
which they have 22s, low pros.
That's going to give you a whole nother element. I mean, you're never going to get good handling out of a 35-inch tall tire on an 18, 19-inch wheel in comparison, right? So, like, I'm impressed with just the steering feel. It doesn't give you the mid-corner jigglies, you know, that you'd even expect with that much sidewall. It's like surprisingly good handling. And
you're not even in high stability, and you're not in stiff suspension. So the levels go up and up. And if we threw the 22s on here, either the stock or aftermarket 22s, on their low pro, a good tire like a Proxy, this thing will blow your mind.
Oh yeah,
there is zero roll.
I believe it.
You can drive to the limit of the tires. That's what's interesting about this truck. And that was, again, how when RJ had, you know, this engineer from McLaren design this suspension, this guy knew what he was doing. Because you have to keep caster and camber angles throughout every one of these ride heights, right? Or otherwise you burn tires right off it.
Sure. And it's not going to handle well.
Right.
And,
no, it's impressive.
And you gotta,
it's so intriguing.
It's like a Swiss Army knife of vehicles.
It's 100%. I've said that.
This is the same.
Yeah, you just turn right. You're good.
I was thinking it was stuff.
No, you're good.
But like,
it's a great analogy. I've said that twice now. It is the Swiss Army knife of a vehicle.
But that's actually not even a good analogy, and here's why I say that. A Swiss Army knife, you put it in your hand and you assume that it's not going to be good at much of anything. It's going to do a little bit of everything. Almost as good as the 6 different things that it's meant to be. And that's what's bizarre. It's like, it's really more like taking a full tool bag and somehow, you know, doing the, you know, shrinking it into a Swiss Army knife and then making it big again and using all the tools in that tool bag. And that's what's kind of crazy. Because it's like, it's too good at each thing to seem possible.
And the thing I like about this, and again, I need to stress this. It's not because I own this truck. I'm not talking it up because you know, it's my truck. I'm talking it up because my entire career, 30 years, starting out, carburetors, points. You know, I was the little poor kid who just went to dump and pick parts. That's my life. So working on these and knowing vehicles the way I do, this has literally been an absolute game changer for the vehicle industry, and 95% of the people have no clue. They just look at it as an electric truck or another vehicle. They don't have a clue to the capabilities.
Well, I mean, I did.
You're finally you're driving it. That's why you're like, I can't believe you. I can push this button and I have my Camaro. I can push this button and we're going through that field.
And like, I would stress to say that somebody watching this is gonna be like, that's kind of BS.
Of course,
no way. Which I get, because I probably would say the same thing. But as somebody who's the ultimate dinosaur of vehicles, 05 Silverado, 2013 Camaro, 05 Harley Davidson, we're talking the most generic American vehicles ever, right?
You don't have a mullet. It's weird.
It's kind of weird that I don't have a mullet, right? But for me to say that, I think that's pretty indicative that it is actually all those things in a sense,
yes.
right?
And you know, people, I am that exact same way.
Yeah.
I don't dress it.
Sure,
I don't act it. But deep down, that is me.
Yeah.
You know, I can remember being, and this is a true story, 12 years old, I have a metal tripod set up, teepee, and I have chain falls, and I'm pulling engines out of cars that we towed home from the dump. At 12 years old. Like, I am that kid. Just because I don't look or act it today doesn't mean that's not who I am.
Yes.
You have expectations of what it should do, and exceeds it. It doesn't meet it. It always blows your mind. Every mode you're in, everything you're doing, driving fast, back roads, swerving, you can't outdrive the truck. Put that way. So we just got back from a 123-mile trip.
We're all nice and dirty.
We're all nice and dirty. This
like
is real Adirondack Mountain EV vehicle ownership.
I mean, I can attest to the fact that we did everything in this truck that you would do in any other vehicle, truck, car, otherwise. No problem. On dirt roads, as you'll see. We covered everything. Covered the gamut. We got it all. That's awesome.
Yes.
Again,
thank
you so much.
No, I appreciate you guys.
See you again, finally.
Yes.
It's been too long.
I'm trying to finish my monster. It's been a long day.
Yeah, you've been talking a lot.
Yeah, we talked a lot.
Yeah.
But overall, it's been great. Like I said, Jay got to drive it. He got to play a little bit.
Yeah. We did. We did too.
Yeah, it's
we
the real.
Drove it for real. It's not some little dummy demo ride thing. Like, we used it properly, which is awesome. So, yeah.
So stay tuned for some videos.
Yeah. And check out his channel, Team Venom Racing. I'll link it.
Sounds good. Thanks, dude.
Thanks again for watching, everyone. See you on the next one.